Hey guys and gals in video land, it's Lou Bortone. How you doing? I wanted to share a new presentation with you. I'm going to launch this presentation in a moment about YouTube and podcasting, because this is a combination that can be really powerful in terms of your marketing. If you've got a podcast or if you want to start a podcast, and if you want to get that podcast on YouTube, I'm going to share this presentation that will show you exactly how to do that. So let's take a look. So as you can see, this is called Podcasting and YouTube, a match made in video heaven. As I mentioned, I'm Lou Bortone. I've been on YouTube since 2005, just a couple months after they launched. So I've been on YouTube for a really long time, but I haven't been doing podcasting for that long. However, when I found out that YouTube is now the #1 source for podcasting, I decided it was time to launch my podcast. And I want to tell you about the powerful combination of podcasting and YouTube and what you can accomplish when you put those two things together. In the next 15 or 20 minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about YouTube and podcasting and how to turn your audio into video gold. We will look at some YouTube best practices and also look at how you can leverage AI for podcasts and video. As you may know, the number of podcast listeners over the years just continues to grow and grow to about 500 million in 2024. So there is an enormous audience for podcast listeners and podcast viewers, about 505 million at last check. And that's an 8.7% increase. As you can see, since 2020, podcasting in general, podcast listening and watching has increased dramatically. But what I like to say is that to truly maximize your podcast, you've got to think outside the audio. You have to go beyond just a simple audio podcast and give it a video element so that you can leverage the power of video and the reach of. In fact, when you look at what percentage of listeners prefer video podcasts, it's 32% of all Americans, 42% of Gen Z, and 43% of millennials. So video podcasting is a huge part of podcasting. The other crazy fact is that YouTube is now the #1 source for podcast viewing and listening, surpassing even Spotify, even Apple. You can see here, Apple's at 36%. YouTube is at almost 41%. So you can also see a little sliver up there of Google Podcasts. Google did away with their podcast channel because they moved everything to YouTube because Google owns YouTube. So you can see where that is just an enormous audience for potential viewers and listeners. And YouTube is the prince of podcasting. When asked, please identify which podcast platform or platforms, if any, you would associate with each of the following. So the question is, you can watch as well as listen. And by a wide margin, people said YouTube. Weekly podcast consumers overwhelmingly associate YouTube with watching podcasts, 62%. And if you look at podcast discovery, the percentage of weekly podcast consumers who listen to a new podcast in the last 6 months and where they found those podcasts was on YouTube, more than Apple, more than Spotify. Now, YouTube's always been great at search and discovery, and it is at its core a search engine, and podcasting is no different. It is an excellent place for viewers and listeners to find your podcast. As Marquis Brownlee says, YouTube has a discoverability advantage. There are people independently searching for topics and guests that stumble across my podcast. They don't do that on other platforms like Spotify. So YouTube's search and discovery capability brings viewers to your content organically. And part of YouTube and part of where the viewership is coming from YouTube is with YouTube Shorts. There are 70 billion YouTube Shorts views per day. Plus, viewers watch 1 billion hours of YouTube videos per day on their TVs. And the audience just in the United States for YouTube is 239 million. So again, huge potential to get discovered and expand and grow your podcast on YouTube. YouTube viewers are buyers. 70% of viewers bought from a brand after seeing it on YouTube. Viewers are learners. 86% of US viewers used YouTube to learn new things. And When viewers are on YouTube, they stay there for a while. The average YouTube visit lasts more than 40 minutes. Another amazing statistic, 700 hours of content is uploaded to YouTube every single minute, and they have 3.5 billion logged in users per month. Again, some of these numbers are hard to get your head around because they're so big, but I just want to emphasize the huge potential that you have here when you tap into YouTube. Another thing that people don't realize is that as a media company, YouTube is second only to Disney. So that means as a media distributor, they are bigger than NBC, Paramount, Netflix, Fox, Prime Video, and everyone else except Disney. Only Disney has more viewers than YouTube. YouTube beats NBC, Paramount, Netflix, Fox, and all other media companies. And as you can see here, monthly active users, 2.49 billion. And people spend 48.7 minutes on YouTube each day. So they're not only visiting the channel, they're spending significant time there. 90% of marketers use YouTube for their video marketing efforts. That number is way, way up over the last few years. And 90% of YouTube visits from users worldwide were from mobile and smartphone devices. People are watching YouTube and they are watching it on their mobile devices. So the bottom line is YouTube is now the #1 destination for all podcasts, surpassing even iTunes and Spotify. Riverside FM says that 85.4% of companies are also recording video versions of their podcast. And that's what I want to encourage you to do as well. And we already know that 64% of US consumers listen to podcasts. There are a number of ways to take your audio-only podcast and turn it into video. You can create a thumbnail or graphic with a waveform like I've done over here with my client, Jen Thornton, and her Let's Fix Leadership podcast. Again, you can see it's just a simple thumbnail graphic, but I added an audio sound wave to it to give it some visual appeal and turn that audio only podcast into a video and audio podcast. You can create a video version of your podcast by recording your podcast on Zoom and using the MP4 video file, like I've done over here in the lower left. You can use audio with B-roll because there are tools that I'm going to show you here like Descript and Pictory that can add video footage to your podcast automatically. Or you can just create an audiogram, which is a really cool graphic representation of your podcast with captions. So even if you've only got audio, you can turn it into video fairly easily. Here, what I've done on the left here, this is a YouTube short. So I took an audio only podcast, I put it into Descript and added captions and a waveform and made it portrait size for YouTube shorts. Again, you can add a waveform and captions to graphics. We use Descript.com for that. You can resize and repurpose your podcast, which means you can use Descript to create promo clips and YouTube shorts. And you can and should add captions to your podcast videos because adding subtitles and captions to your videos can lead to an impressive 80% increase in views. Now, again, all I have as a source file is an audio, and I'm then creating a graphic and captions and things like that in Descript to turn that audio only into a video that I can use as a YouTube short or a LinkedIn video or a Facebook video. Possibilities are almost endless. Here's an example of an audiogram, which is a simple way, again, to turn your audios into videos. We use Descript.com for this. And again, we just took an audio. Now, obviously, I turned the audio off on this one because I don't want it to distract from the presentation. But normally, you can hear the words that you're seeing as captions, and you've got sound wave here. So this is ready to upload as a video to YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much anywhere. You can use templates that you can find in Canva or Descript to create video podcasts like you see on the left here with cool calls to action. Again, all you have to do is take the template in Descript. You don't have to be a designer. You can customize this and again, put your own image or video in here and your own text. And the templates make it really easy. You don't have to be a designer. You don't have to be techie. You just have to take that audio or video and turn it into a video for YouTube Shorts or wherever you may want to put it. You can repurpose for new platforms, so you can make your videos vertical like this one on the left so that you can use them on TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. And you don't really have to have design skills because you're just taking a template from Canva or Descript and customizing it.
You'll love the Godfather movies, and you'll love Take the Cannoli, the Godfather podcast. Each week, we take a few minutes to talk about anything.
What I've done here is I've created a video version of my Godfather podcast. On the right-hand side, you can see that I created a vertical version for YouTube Shorts and added the captions and audio wave. I had a voiceover record the introduction to this, and my normal podcast, in this case, this was a 27-minute interview, but I also sliced and diced that and turned it into YouTube Shorts and caption videos for LinkedIn. So I'm repurposing this podcasting, giving it life beyond just the original. Same thing with if you don't want to be on camera, you can use a tool like Pictory to create a video like this one.
It might seem crazy that people find love that lasts within just 6 days. Yet, when I look back at my client.
So all I did with this was I took a transcript and plugged it into Pictory, and I used captions and footage that Pictory finds and provides to match the text. And I used an AI voiceover to voice the video. So this didn't involve anything from the client other than their original blog post or text. I plugged in the text and Pictory did the rest.
While successfully coupled, I noticed that many met their partners and became exclusive within only 6 days. And the wonderful thing is that most have relationships.
So all of the footage comes from Pictory. Everything is within that software, which we'll show you a little bit more in a bit. But the cool thing about this is you are taking a text. You're taking, in this case, I think it was a blog post or an article or an email, and entering that into Pictory. And Pictory pretty much does the rest. It's about as close as you can get to an automatic video. If you have Pictory, you'll see that you can do script to video, article to video. You can edit video using text. You can do visuals to video. So whether you've got audio or text or anything else, all of your existing assets and your existing content can be repurposed into videos using Pictory practically automatically. This is another one where I didn't put the audio in this one, but Pictory provided the B-roll, the footage here. So I can use Pictory.ai to create videos from just audio and text. And again, I can go in here and customize each scene and switch out the footage if I don't like it. I don't have to start jumping around to stock footage sites or iStock Photo or anything like that, because everything is included within Pictory, including the photos, videos, music, and AI voices. And they've partnered with 11 Labs to create amazing AI hyper-realistic voices. You can do British accents, American, Australian, just about anything you could possibly want. Young, old, ASMR, authoritative, casual. So they've got dozens and dozens of AI voices that you can apply to your video if you don't want to voice it yourself. And again, you can see here some of the premium voices, 48 of those. So Abby female, Adam male. And again, they'll tell you this guy has a horse voice, this guy is a war veteran voice, this one's a deep news presenter. So you can basically listen to each one of these and find the right voice for your video. Pictory is putting the footage in here, which you can go in and customize and switch out, and they're putting the captions as well. And you can customize those as well. You can put logos in here. You can make it your own brand colors. So there's a ton of flexibility, but you're already starting way ahead of the game because you've already got your voice and your captions and your video. But the tool that I use most, even more than Pictory, is Descript.com. It's really my secret weapon when it comes to video and audio production, because I can turn podcasts into videos and clips. The audio content can easily be turned into visual content. I can resize and repurpose podcasts. I can make videos or clips for Instagram Reels or Shorts, and I can exponentially increase my content output and create more and better content faster and easier than ever thought possible by using Descript. Because in Descript, You're not editing in a traditional timeline like down here in the lower left. And again, I've used Final Cut Pro for 25 years, and now I rarely use it at all because I've switched to Descript. Because in Descript, you are editing a transcript or a text. So you bring in your audio or video or written content, and any changes you make to the text will be reflected in the video. And Descript just launched their new AI tool, which is called Underlord, which can do some truly amazing things. We'll go more into that in our Descript class. But for now, just know that you can do all kinds of cool things for video that you couldn't do before, thanks to Descript's new AI tool called Underlord. You can do studio sound, remove filler words. They've got an eye contact feature, which actually moves your eyes back up towards the screen if you're not looking at the camera. You can create clips. You can create a highlight reel. You can find highlights. This, again, as I say, is another class in itself. But for now, just know that it is an incredible tool for turning audios or text into videos. But you have a lot of app options when it comes from going from audio to video or podcast to video. Again, you can create an on-camera version. You can add a waveform to your graphics like you saw in a couple of my examples. You can create an audiogram with Descript like you saw earlier, which is text and a sound wave. You can add video footage and B-roll with Pictory, and you can resize and repurpose your audios and videos for other platforms. There's really no limit to what you can do now with these new AI tools. So there's no reason why you can't take your audio podcast and turn that into a video podcast. Why? Because YouTube is the biggest source for podcasting, and we want you to leverage the size and reach of YouTube. So let's talk about a couple of basics for setting up or upgrading your YouTube channel if you don't already have one. The main thing with YouTube is in the setup. So when you start with your channel settings using the customization tab, that's where you can add a channel trailer, which is like a welcome video. You can organize your playlists and the order that your videos show up in. You can do your channel banner. You can add a featured video for returning subscribers. In this case, I have the same video from my welcome video as well as my returning subscribers. So a lot of it is set it and forget it, which is good news because once you do the customization, you don't really have to worry about it anymore. When you upload your videos, the main thing to pay attention to is to optimize that video by paying special attention to the title, description, and thumbnail. Those are the three key areas that you want to focus on when you are uploading a video or podcast to YouTube. The title is really important. The description, actually, this description came from Descript's AI because one of the things you can do in Descript is ask it to create a YouTube description with the timestamps and chapter markers already in there. So this is a huge time saver. And again, I've got my goofy thumbnail here. I was dressed up as a pope or priest or something. This is the 7 deadly video marketing sins with Father Fabrizio. So pay special attention to that title, that description, and that thumbnail. Now, surprisingly, tags or keywords are not nearly as important as they used to be. As you can see, I still use them, and it certainly doesn't hurt to have your tags or keywords in there for YouTube, but they are much less important than they used to be. In fact, YouTube itself says tags can be useful if your content in your video is commonly misspelled. Otherwise, oops, we jumped ahead. Otherwise, and this is from YouTube, tags play a minimal role in helping viewers find your video. So don't obsess over keywords when it comes to YouTube. Focus on your title and your thumbnail and your description. In addition, when you move your podcast or create a podcast on YouTube, they have an actual category for that. If you go to the upper right corner of your channel and go to the create button, and then you'll see a drop down where you normally upload your videos. But at the bottom here, they've got something called new podcast. So you can create or add a podcast as a category to your YouTube channel. When you click the create new podcast button, that will bring you here where you can either create a new podcast, set an existing playlist as a podcast, or submit the RSS feed. So there are a couple of ways to get your podcast up onto YouTube. Once you do that, you'll be able to fill out the title of your podcast and the description and add a thumbnail graphic, and then add the videos that you want to add to that podcast playlist. It's very similar to a playlist, but what you'll see here is once you add that, you'll now have a tab on your channel just for podcasts. So if you were doing a lot of videos and now you're adding podcasts, this is a great way to let your viewers know where your podcasts are and how they can easily find those podcasts. So here I've got my interviews, and I've also got the Kick the Cannoli Godfather podcast here. In addition, if you want to make sure you cover all your bases, you can create a playlist specifically for your podcast as well. So you can see here, you can create a playlist for your interviews or podcasts, and that's just another way to help folks find your content. The great thing about playlists is that they will play in sequence. So all of these playlists for the Godfather podcast will play one right after the other, just like Netflix. So when one video or podcast ends, the next one will automatically begin. This keeps people on your channel longer, and YouTube rewards watch time. You want to keep people on your channel as long as possible. And certainly having a playlist will do that, as does having an end screen. So make sure that when you upload your videos or podcasts to YouTube, that you're adding an end screen, which again will help keep people on your channel because it's giving your viewer suggestions for other videos they may like that will keep them with you. Again, watch time is key. You want to keep people in your world and on your channel as long as possible. So ultimately, you want to tap into the power of YouTube. And remember that this is not something that's going to happen in 24 hours or 48 hours. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But the massive audience on YouTube provides an amazing opportunity for your podcast to be discovered by whole new audiences. It's your time and your turn to claim your slice of YouTube's 2.49 billion monthly active users. Or as I like to say, a podcast is a terrible thing to waste. We know that podcasts are a lot of work, and you want to get as much mileage and as much viewers and listeners out of that podcast as possible. So don't waste your efforts. Don't count on just audio. Do a video version and get it up on YouTube where people can find it. If you want help with this, I do have podcast production packages, and I do podcast editing and production where I can turn your audio podcast into a video, repurpose that for promo clips with captions, create vertical videos for YouTube Shorts, create audiograms for LinkedIn and socials. I can even create the graphics and thumbnails. So if you need someone to take your audio and run with it and make it sound and look amazing and leverage it for YouTube, let me know. I've got a couple different packages. They're all customized. These are just base prices to give you a sense. If you're doing a podcast weekly, if you want the extra transcripts and show notes and blog posts and things like that, all of that is totally possible. I do it for several clients. And if you're interested in talking about that, just reach out to me and let me know. I have custom packages. Every production package is customized for the particular client needs. And again, you can produce and edit your weekly audio podcast and repurpose it into a video podcast. We'll also create customized and captioned clips so that you can leverage LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and more. And remember, YouTube is now the #1 destination for all podcasts, surpassing even iTunes and Spotify. And did you know that videos on LinkedIn outperform every other social platform? So get in on the action, claim your slice of the huge YouTube pie, and turn your podcast into a video as well. Please reach out to me at vip@loubortone.com if you want to talk about this, if you have any questions about your podcast, if you have any questions about Descript.com, or if you'd like to explore having us create your video podcast from your audio or your blog post or anything else you may have. That's it from here. I hope you'll take advantage of the huge potential of YouTube by taking your audio podcast or your audios and turning them into videos as well. We'd love to help you with that. Feel free to reach out to us at vip@loubortone.com. Thanks and bye for now.